Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw returned and did as well as we could have hoped. The offense continues to show some signs of life, and we'll talk about the Corey Seager conundrum. Let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. When you're done listening to this, you can join Walking Baseball Encyclopedia Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, every day on Locked On MLB for a unique look at the majors, both present and past, featuring exciting guest interviews and routine check-ins from the Locked On MLB Network's team of local experts. Subscribe to Locked On MLB today on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Dodgers is the daily podcast covering the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. I am Jeff Snider of Baseball Essential, flying solo again today. Turns out I don't follow football much. I knew that Vince was in Las Vegas for the Raiders game. I assumed that that game had happened on Sunday because, that's when football happens. Turns out they were on Monday Night Football, which is apparently a thing even during baseball season. I don't know. But so I'm solo again. Vince will hopefully be back with me tomorrow. But today I'm going to talk about the Dodgers' 5-1 victory over the Diamondbacks. Clayton Kershaw returned, pitched pretty darn well, and maybe even a little bit longer than we might have expected. Going to talk about just kind of the pitching approach for the Dodgers and talk about the offense. They had a solid game, and it could have been even better. Going to talk about Corey Seager and Trea Turner and, kind of what's in store or, at least the hard factors going into the decisions the Dodgers have to make this coming offseason. And then I'm going to get a little bit cheesy with something personal at the end, but that's the plan for today. But first, I want to remind you, please subscribe or follow Locked On Dodgers wherever you get your podcasts, including here on YouTube. If you're watching us here on YouTube, it's our second YouTube episode, and we're happy to be here doing that. And when you get in your car or sitting on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. All right, so Clayton Kershaw, like I said, he returned. The plan coming in was for him to go 4 innings or 60 pitches. Whichever came first. He was at 49 pitches through 4 innings, and he and Dave Roberts had a conversation in the dugout, and they basically stuck to their plan. They let Kershaw go 1 out longer than maybe was their plan. That 1 out only took 1 pitch. I assume the conversation went something like, look, Dave, you're not going to pinch hit for me anyway because it's too early in the game to start burning pinch hitters, so let me hit, and then let me go get the pitcher out, and then you can take me out after 1 more hitter. So they agreed on that. And they stuck to that plan, even though just like in the World Series, when they had that plan and then Kershaw got 2 outs on 2 pitches, this time he got Zach Gallen on 1 pitch, and then Dave Roberts came out and took him out. Obviously, if Kershaw had made it through 5 innings, which, based on the 60 pitches limit, he might have been able to do, would have been in line for the win. But ultimately, pitcher wins don't matter. I guess Phil Bickford ended up getting the win. So good for him, way to go, Phil Bickford. Pitcher wins don't matter, especially at this point in the season where Kershaw's not going for a Cy Young Award or anything anyway. It was good to have him back. His velocity was nothing to write home about, sitting about 90. I noticed he was throwing the slow slider a lot more. It was really effective. His slider is usually like, 87 to 89 miles an hour. It was down at 84 or 85 at times. And it's got a little bit different shape to it when it goes that slow. And it seemed to work for him. He got a lot of swings and misses for a guy who wasn't throwing very hard. His curveball looked sharp. His slider looked sharp. I didn't see him throw any changeups that I noticed. He's been apparently tinkering with the changeup while he's been injured, but didn't really bust that out at all, I don't think. Definitely not enough to notice, but a good 4 1/3 innings from Kershaw. And then it was kind of interesting to see their transition to the bullpen after Kershaw. They went with Phil Bickford and then Alex Vesia and then Corey Knebel, which is relatively a high leverage approach. At that point it was 3-1. Kershaw gave up the 1 run in the first inning. The Dodgers scored 3 runs in the bottom of the first, and then the score stayed 3-1 for a little while. And so at that point, yeah, it's a pretty high leverage game, I guess. And they were taking that approach. And then by the time the 7th inning was over, the Dodgers were up 5-1. They scored 1 run in the 6th and 1 in the No, one in the fifth and one in the sixth, maybe. No, yeah, in the sixth and the seventh. So going into the eighth inning, they went with Mitch White and said, basically, okay, you can pitch the last two innings. And I thought that was interesting that just going from 3-1 to 4-1, they still stuck with Knebel, which is, relatively high leverage. But then that fifth run, well, once you're out of save situation, I guess, then they're like, okay, it's the Diamondbacks and we're up by 4 runs. I think Mitch White can handle this. I thought that was interesting, not in a bad way at all. Obviously, you want to save your relievers, not overwork them any more than you have to. Bickford and Vesia came in and did a really good job, not without its bumps for either of them, but they both did a really good job getting the outs they needed to, especially Vesia got back-to-back strikeouts when the Diamondbacks were threatening a little bit. And so overall, just a really good pitching approach for the Dodgers for the whole game. Getting 4 1/3 from Kershaw. Obviously, we wouldn't have been shocked if they had only gotten 3 from Kershaw. Obviously, they didn't want that. They wanted to get 4, and they had a game plan for after that 4. Getting 4 1/3 was a little bit of a bonus, but you can't always even count on getting those 4. So it was really good that Kershaw was able to do that. And that was the pitching approach. It was just good to see Kershaw back on the mound. It's been a couple months. He's been such a big part of this team, and he has potential to be a huge part of this team in October, even if he's the 4th starter. And that's a lot of what they're doing over this next, he's going to get a few more starts, and they're going to see, okay, are you our 4th starter? Are you a long man out of the bullpen? Are we doing piggyback starts? What are we going to do? And this was the first step in figuring that out. And after, a weekend of dominant starting pitching where Julio and Buehler each went 7, Scherzer went 8, they could afford for Kershaw to only go 4. And still, I mean, their bullpen's pretty darn well rested right now, all things considered, as they go into, Tony Gonsolin's start on Tuesday or on whatever day, Tuesday. You don't know what to expect from him either as far as length goes. So it's good that they have a relatively rested bullpen. And then you get back into the real starters, the horses. And it's nice to feel the Dodgers kind of getting back to that spot where they can start expecting their starters to go a little bit deeper. So that's exciting for me as a Dodger fan. So I'm going to come back in a little bit. I'm going to talk about the offense in this game. And they kind of broke out a little bit, and it could have been even more. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So keep it locked on Dodgers. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on to start another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Okay, I am back. In this game, the offense scored 5 runs. They had 11 hits. Cody Bellinger had another double. He looked pretty good. He didn't, I don't think he struck out at all, which is a few games in a row now that he hasn't struck out. He's still missing the ball. So, I mean, even his double came after he hit what should have been a pop out, but the Diamondbacks catcher couldn't corral it. And he got second life and he took advantage and hit the ball hard down the line. I think I heard Ora Hershiser say it was Bellinger's second hardest hit ball of the season. So he's looking better. And, obviously you can't just go, oh, this game he looked good, so he's good now. But when you know that he has made changes to his batting stance and his approach, and we're starting to see different results, I'm more comfortable putting 2 and 2 together than if there was no explanation for the results, because unexplained results are harder to count on. But when we feel like he's made an adjustment and maybe it's working, it's enough to get you maybe at least a little bit excited that he can contribute to this team down the stretch and in October. Justin Turner had another homer. He's been struggling a little bit. I think he also had a double. So he looked like maybe he's starting to break out a little bit. Max Muncy, even though he went 0 for 5, he hit the ball hard 3 times. Expected batting average of like 440, 520, and 730 or something like that. So he hit the ball hard. Mookie was on base a couple times. Seager had 2 more hits. overall, the Dodgers had 18 balls hit 98 miles an hour or harder, and only 7 of them were hits. They had 5 outs that had expected batting averages over 500. So they scored 5 runs on 11 hits, but it easily could have been more. And that's kind of what we need more of. The feeling last year and in some of these Dodgers teams over the past several years has been, even on an off game, we can put up 4 or 5 runs. And this year there's been more of that. An off game, it's like, oh, are we going to get even 3 runs, even 2 runs? And this was kind of one of those games where the Dodgers missed some opportunities. They had some bad luck on balls in play. They left some guys on base, but they still had 5 runs on 11 hits. And so when you can say, and yeah, it's the Diamondbacks that you definitely take into account, but it was Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen is actually a pretty good pitcher. He struggled in the first inning and then he settled down, and he's a good pitcher. And so it's one of those games where you can see, okay, we struggled and we still put up 5 runs on 11 hits and didn't blow out the Diamondbacks, but it wasn't really a close game. And so that's kind of what I would love to see more of from these Dodgers, where even the bad offensive games, you score 5 runs and have 11 hits. And, one of the big keys there is the long ball. Justin Turner hit a home run. That's a big deal. Home runs are a big deal. There's always been talk over the last several years, are the Dodgers too dependent on the home run or whatever? And maybe, but that's kind of the way the game is these days. And the fact is, you get a run, at least 1 run every time you hit a home run. Sometimes you get 2 or 3 runs. And that's, when the Dodgers hit home runs, they are at their best, and they don't need to hit only home runs. We saw in this game, especially with the speed of guys like Lux and Trea Turner and Cody Bellinger and whoever, they can score on hits too. But an occasional home run is really nice because you get those runs on the board, and it's an easy way to stack up some runs. And when your pitching is as dominant as the Dodgers pitching has been, yeah, they're only going to allow 1 or 2 runs a game. So getting that home run is like, we're almost there. And if they are too dependent on the home run, I hope they will start hitting more home runs, because that's the key to success. I really believe in this day and age of baseball. And yeah, not swinging for the fences. And one of my pet peeves is whenever a Dodgers player gets out, Dodgers Twitter explodes and they need to just try to put the bat on the ball, take a better approach. They're just swinging for the fences. And I don't think that's it. I think, some people, I think there's a common misunderstanding of what launch angle and exit velocity really mean, because the fact is, we've been talking, as long as baseball players have been hitting, they've been talking about launch angle and exit velocity. They just haven't been calling it by those names, because you know what? Hit a hard line drive. You've been hearing that forever, since Little League. Well, what does hard mean? It means exit velocity. What does line drive mean? It means launch angle. Exit velocity and launch angle, especially launch angle. People think that launch angle means the higher you hit it, the better. That is not the case. Launch angle means there is this range where if you hit the ball in the 18 to 30 degree launch angle range, or whatever it is, I don't know the exact, optimal numbers, but you are going to be more successful. You're going to get hits more often. If you get the right backspin and you hit it hard enough, a 27 degree line drive is often going to be a home run. That's what launch angle and exit velocity are. It means hit hard line drives. And the Dodgers did that in this game. They hit some hard line drives. Justin Turner hit a hard line drive that went over the wall. Trea Turner just missed one. He flied out to center field that was almost a home run. Corey Seager, the next batter, almost hit one out, just barely missed it. And then JT got his. It was 3 batters in a row that very easily could have been 3 straight home runs, because they were hitting the ball hard, and Corey and Trea just didn't quite get the right launch angle. But batters aren't up there thinking about specific numbers. They're, in their training, they are, okay, here is what I need to do that gives me the best chance of hitting a good launch angle line drive. They're not up there thinking I need to hit the ball 23 degrees. They're thinking, okay, if I do this and this and this, I have a good chance of hitting it at an optimal launch angle. Whether they know that number or not doesn't really matter, because their training is built in. And so, that it's kind of a lazy argument that you see sometimes about, oh, they're just swinging for the fence all the time, because they're not. But yeah, their approach doesn't change much, because whether they're, sometimes if there's two strikes and there's a runner on third and less than 2 outs, yeah, you need to put the ball in play. And so maybe you do need to change your approach there. But most of the time, a guy's best chance of getting a hit is doing the things that he's most comfortable doing. And, very few hitters can actually change their approach based on the count or whatever. There have been some, and they are in the Hall of Fame, but most hitters, your best chance is go up there and do what you do best and hope that it goes well. And that's what the Dodgers basically do. And that's why I said last week, they're going to come out of this slump. We just don't know when. And they showed signs in this game of coming out of that slump. And that was exciting to me. So I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk specifically about Corey Seager and Trea Turner and some comparisons and, what is on the Dodgers plate decision-wise this offseason. So keep it locked on Dodgers. Hey, does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. This episode is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. You know that. We've told you that before. If you've gone to an auto parts store, they don't have the part you need. They either have a generic part or they will order in a part for you. Then you got to go back and pick it up. Well, guess what? You have the internet. That's how you're listening to a podcast or watching it on YouTube. You can go to rockauto.com and you can order the part yourself, because they have a very easy to use website where you can just look up your make and model of car. They'll list all the parts that they have available, and you can order it and they'll deliver it straight to your house. And the best part is it costs a bunch less too, 30, 50, even 100%, more at the auto parts store than what you're going to pay at rockauto.com. I've saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars using Rock Auto. I'm not saying that because they advertise with us. I'm saying it because it's true. I found out about them reading this ad, and I went to them for my auto parts needs, and I saved, over $1,000 in one instance, because I needed new, I forget even what it was, shocks for my Suburban. And the dealership quoted me $1,600, and I got them on Rock Auto for like $400. So, whatever it is you're doing, I can't guarantee you'll save $1,000, but you will be happier because it will cost you less. There will be less hassle. You won't have to go into a gross auto parts store, and they'll deliver it straight to your house. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So interesting thing I saw on Twitter on Monday was that in the time since Trea Turner came to the Dodgers, he's been a spark plug. Everybody's loved Trea Turner, and I'm included in that. Corey Seager has actually hit better than Trea Turner since then, by quite a bit, actually. Corey Seager has been hitting the ball really well lately since he came off the injured list. He is looking pretty darn good. And, Trea's speed is definitely a weapon. Corey is not as fast as Trea Turner. They haven't been going crazy with Trea Turner's speed in terms of stolen bases, but he is already fourth on the team in stolen bases, and he's only been with the team for a month and a half, maybe. And overall, his base running has been great. His game on Monday, he could have scored from first on Corey Seager's single in the first inning. He's so fast, where Seager hit it into the gap in right center. There wasn't really a chance for Seager to get a double, but Turner's so fast, and that's a long throw. He probably could have scored, but there was only one out, so they held him up just to be safe, and he ended up scoring anyway. But scoring from first on a single is one of my favorite things. It doesn't happen very often, but that's the kind of thing that Trea Turner brings you. His speed is game-changing, and Seager doesn't have that, but he's played really good defense, solid defense since coming back, and he definitely has a better arm than Trea Turner. I've almost been wondering if Corey Seager had some nagging injury that we didn't know about that was causing some of the defensive issues earlier in the year. And then, resting that broken hand gave whatever nagging injury it was time to heal too, because he seems like he's been quite a bit better defensively, a little bit more rangy, just seems more smooth out there. And so it's going to be so interesting to see, excuse me, what the Dodgers do with Corey Seager this offseason, because it's a tough decision. Seager's going to be a free agent. He's not maybe going to command quite the contract that he thought he might coming into the year, just because, the injury that he hasn't been overall. He hasn't hit like he did in the postseason last year. And I think maybe that was what some people were expecting or hoping for. But he's been a good, solid hitter, and there's still a few weeks left to bolster that. But, is Corey going to be looking for a 1-year pillow contract to maybe reestablish some of that value? Or is he going to be going for, maybe just accepting, okay, I'm not going to get the 10 years and 300 million, but I can still get, 6 years and 170 million or something, and go with that. I don't know. And that'll, he's a Scott Boras client, which always has an impact on what happens with the Dodgers and negotiations. And I don't even know what I want the answer to be, because, I love Corey Seager, and what we see in this offense, I think in the last time when I was talking about how the Dodgers can have a kind of an off night and still score 5 runs and have 11 hits. And some of that is just because of the length they have in the lineup. If Cody Bellinger is hitting, Austin Barnes even had 2 hits in that game on Monday, they basically 1 through 8, you had guys who can hit the ball. And that is a big deal. Gavin Lux has been hitting, Corey's been hitting. And so they have all that length in their lineup. And Corey Seager is a big part of that. He's I don't know if he's ever been overall for a season their best hitter, maybe actually his rookie year, but he's just a very good hitter when he's healthy. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, honestly, when he's healthy. And we've seen that. And so, but a team signing him, whether it's the Dodgers re-signing him or somebody signing him in free agency, is kind of having to bet on him being healthy, betting on his health. And, the injury this year was a fluke. It was weird that he got his hand broken by a hit by pitch. You can't say he's injury prone because of that, but he has had other injuries. And like I said, there may have been a nagging injury even before that broken hand. And so, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen. And like I said, I don't even know what I want to happen, except that I love Corey Seager and I'm enjoying watching him hit. And I hope he can get as hot as he was last October, starting really soon, and just help carry this team for the rest of September and all the way through October, along with some of these other guys. So that's my thought on Corey Seager and Trea Turner. And now to finish this up, I'm going to get cheesy here. But that's okay because it's my podcast. This has nothing to do with baseball or the Dodgers, but it's important to me. So I'm going to say I'm not super serious on here all the time, but one of my heroes passed away last week, and I spent Monday morning at his funeral. His name was Gary Keetch. He was an assistant principal and principal at schools here in the local district where I live, in Pleasant Grove, Utah. He and his wife, they also opened a local fast food place that has employed like seemingly half the teenagers who've lived in Pleasant Grove the past 30 years, including my daughter currently there. She works there right now. And I spent hours and hours in his living room in the 12 years that I knew him, learning from him how to be a better husband, a better dad, and a better person. He was almost 84 years old, but I wish he had lived to be 184. He was a wonderful man. Gary Keetch is basically who I want to be when I grow up, and I miss him already. And I wanted to give a shout out to him because I love him. I love his family, and I miss him. And I appreciate you guys indulging me in that here on my podcast. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. We always enjoy talking about the Dodgers with you guys every day. If you're not listening every day, we would love if you add, maybe you want to watch on YouTube once in a while. You're usually a podcast guy, but sometimes you want to sit down and watch it on YouTube. Yeah, that would be awesome. Add 1 or 2 days a month to your rotation. That would be a big help for us. Obviously, if you have friends or family who love the Dodgers as much as you do, maybe they'll love the podcast as much as you do too. So tell them about it, and we'll see. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at Vince Samperio. I am on Twitter at Snydog. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com. And our phone number for voicemails or texts is 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Betting on baseball doesn't have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast, hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favored picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast, brought to you by BetOnline.ag, wherever you get podcasts.